Good afternoon, students. Let us take lesson 10 of history, the First World War. Here we have to study about the causes, that is nationalism, imperialism, and division of Europe's Sarajevo crisis, Treaty of Versailles. So let's start the lesson. In 1914, a war began in Europe which soon engulfed almost the entire world with battle fought in Europe, Asia, Africa and the Pacific. It was fought on worldwide scale and affected almost all the countries of the world. During this war, new methods of defense and destructions were used by different countries. This war was fought by the people as whole. The war marked the turning point in the history of the world because the unprecedented extent of its spread, impact and damage and its total nature, or because of its total nature, it is known as the First World War. There are many causes for things to be happened. So the World War also have certain causes. The first and foremost causes of the First World War was nationalism and imperialism. So let us talk what is nationalism. Nationalism refers to the sense of unity felt by the people who share a common history, language and culture. It means those peoples having the same culture, same history, living in the same area. And these peoples of many countries believe that the country is superior to other country. And this led to the developments of aggressive nationalism in Europe. Now, aggressive nationalism means love for one's own country. Aggressive nationalism meant love for one's own country and hatred of other country. Each nation thought about its own national interest and did not care for the interests of the other nations. Aggressive nationalism also led to the rise of imperialism, a system by which a powerful nation used to establish its control over other country, either by political pressure or infiltrations and annexations or by outright war. One conquered this country was claimed as a colony, like India was a colony for British, and these colonies were governed and administered by the imperial nation through its representative or a puppet government. So by the end of the 19th century, England and France has built up a huge colonial empire in Asia and Africa. British imperialism was focused on maintaining and expanding trade by exploiting the resources of its colonies like India, Sri Lanka, Myanmar, Egypt, South Africa, Caribbean island and many parts of Africa. British imperialistic power was reinforced by her powerful and the world's largest navy. At the same time, aggressive nationalism and fierce economic competitions filled the atmosphere with fear, apprehensions, mutual hatred, and international tension. People felt convinced that international problems could only be solved through militarism. So imperialism and nationalism along with militarism tried to solve the problems. And this was one of the causes that led to the First World War. Second, rise for armaments. The mad race for armament, which began soon after the Franco-Prussian War, was one of the reasons which led to the First World War. That is, all the countries start manufacturing different types of weapons in order to fight the other country and in order to increase their imperial power. At the same time, Europe was divided into hostile power and two kinds of states in Europe in the late 20th century. On one hand, they were single nation states like France, Holland, Germany, and there were also imperial states like the Austro-Hungarian Empire, the Russian Empire. The Austro-Hungarian Empire was ruled by the Habsburg dynasty of Australia. German entered into an alliance with Austro-Hungary, and in 1882, Italy joined the Triple Alliance, came to be known as the Triple Alliances. After the death of Bismarck, France was able to establish good relationship with Russia and England. Britain also creates a vast British empire by acquiring colonies in Asia and Africa. There was differences between nations happened not only for the colonies but for also colonial trades and trade routes. And this created suspensions, tension, war, which finally culminated in the First World War. And one of the immediate cause of the First World War was the Sarajevo crisis, in which the Archduke Francis Fernandez, the heir to the throne of Austria-Hungary, was assassinated at Sarajevo, capital of Bosnia, on June 28, 1940. The assassination was organized by a secret society called Black Hand, or Union of Death, which aimed to unite all Siberians into a single Siberian state. So, Australia served an ultimatum on Siberia on July 23, making 11 demands, which was not accepted by Siberians, and Australia declared war on Siberia on July 28. Russia also started preparation for war to support Siberia on August 1, 1914. Germany declared war on Russia. August 3rd, on France, Germany troops marched in Belgium to press on France on August 4th, and on the same day, Britain declared war on Germany. In this way, the First World War started taking the entire country of the world. Britain, France, Russia, and the Allies were called the Allied power. Germany, Australia, and the Allies were called the Central power. So, these were the three causes that lead. The immediate causes were the Sarajevo crisis, which led to the First World War. Now, second, we will study about the Treaty of Versailles, one of the most important treaty, in which Germany was found guilty of the war or aggregations, and where all the Treaty of Versailles was June 28, 1990, in which a conference first held in Versailles and of Paris, and later in Paris between January and June 1990. So, the terms of the peace treaty was really decided by Woodrow Wilson, President of the United States, Lord George, Prime Minister of Britain, and George Clemenceau, Prime Minister of France. The defeated country were not represented at the conference, and the victorious power also exclude Russia from the conference. As a result, the discussion of the Paris Conference on June 28, 1990, the Treaty of Versailles was signed. Now, the treaty was designed to prevent Germany from going into war again, and it also considered Germany guilty of aggregations. There are certain terms of the Treaty of Versailles. Germany was required to pay for the losses and damage suffered by the Allies during the war, and the amount of preparations was fixed as $33 billion. The area of the Rhine Valley was to be demilitarized, and the German territory west of Rhine was to be occupied by the Allied troops for 15 years. At the same time, Germany loses many of its colonies and cede part of its pre-war territory to Denmark, Belgium, Poland, Czechoslovakia, and France. The coal mines in the German area called Saar was ceded to France for 15 years, and Germany lost all its colonies to the victorious Allies, that is Britain, Belgium, South Africa, and Portugal. Germany troops was in the colonies in the Pacific, and the area under control in China was given to Japan. The German army was restricted to a force of 1 lakh soldiers, and the navy was limited to 1,500 men and 24 ships. The air force and submarines were banned, and the treaty affirmed the complete independence of Belgium Poland, Yugoslavia. The Convent of the League of Nations was added to the Treaty of Versailles. At the same time, the League of Nations was formed in 1920 with certain aims and objectives. Like all the states of the world were prohibited from entering into any secret treaties or alliances, the member states were not supposed to maintain huge armies, worship and destructive armaments. All states were to refer their individual disputes, if any, to the League of Nations for a peaceful settlement. The member states were to take necessary action as directed by the League against any states which try to disturb world peace. At the same time, two major countries, Germany and Soviet Union, were not allowed to become members for many years. And the rise of dictatorship in Italy and Germany led to the weakening of the League of Nations, and failed to achieve its basic objective of maintaining peace in the world. So, unfortunately, the League came to an end as Hitler committed aggression on Poland, which began to the Second World War in 1939 and 45. This is about the lesson. Read the lesson so that you could understand it properly. The immediate cause is very important, and the factors that led to the First World War was important. Thank you, students.